Three favorite Kelson Harris. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another off-season of hiatus video. Okay, I know. These videos have been gone for a long time. They started in one hiatus, and now we're in another hiatus. But I mean, there is something to be said for sticking to it, right? You heroes submitted some fantastic questions way back when I asked you for them, and I'm finally ready to give you some answers. It's time for the fourth Orange Ranger Q&A. I had some folks, some heroes, who took that whole I'm not going to impose a limit on the number of questions you can ask thing and really ran with it. So I'm going to get those groups of questions out of the way first, since I'll probably be providing slightly shorter answers in order to fit them all in. Toku Nation asked the following 6 questions. Number 1. In your Draw My Life video, you mentioned working at Disney World. What did you do while working there? I was in retail merchandise as a cashier and a stocker mainly. I started out at World of Disney at Downtown Disney, the single largest Disney merchandise location on the planet, by the way. After that, I had, to be honest, a rather disastrous 1-month stint in hotel housekeeping before moving on to the Magic Kingdom. I started out in Tomorrowland as a cashier before transferring to the single location at Disney where I spent the most amount of time, at the front of the Magic Kingdom, working in the stroller, wheelchair, electric scooter rental department. After that, I had about a 1-month stint with the turnstiles before I had to move away. Were you ever made fun of for being an adult fan of Power Rangers? An adult fan? No, not really. However, I was slightly outside what you would call the show's target age range when it first debuted, and there were a number of people who thought that I was too old to be watching and enjoying a show like Power Rangers. However, I ended up not watching the show anymore after Power Rangers Turbo. Funny enough, not because Turbo was bad, but because I thought Power Rangers in space meant the Rangers were leaving Earth forever. As an adult, I'm really not all that concerned with what people think about what I enjoy. I always like to say in response to that there are a number of adults that enjoy shows like The Simpsons and Family Guy, cartoons that are often far more juvenile than Power Rangers. To each their own, right? Did you ever dream of being a Power Ranger? Of course I have. There's a previous video where I've shown off some teams that I have created, fanfiction teams, using pixel art, and you'll notice that every one of those teams has an Orange Ranger on it. That character is almost always my own self-insert into the story. I've also imagined myself as the non-canon Orange Ranger on real canon teams as well. Do you watch other toku besides Super Sentai and Kamen Rider? No, not really, to be honest with you. I've watched some of Garo and I really enjoyed that, but I don't keep up with it on a regular basis. I haven't watched any Ultraman, just not really my thing. I'm just kind of focused on Super Sentai and Kamen Rider. What Kamen Rider series would you adapt in the United States, and how would you adapt it? I feel like I've been asked this question before, and I think I answered it in a previous video, but I'm happy to answer it again since I can't specifically remember. I have 2 answers to this. Thematically, I would love to see an American adaptation of Kamen Rider Kiva. The gothic theming and all the vampire stuff. I would probably play that adaptation pretty close to the Japanese vest, actually, almost more translation than adaptation. But I mean, as we saw with Shinkenger to Samurai, those can be pretty good at least. Commercially, I think that Kamen Rider Kabuto is a series that is ripe for adaptation. It even had an English dub in the Philippines, I want to say. You have to remember that shows like these are toy commercials where perhaps even the main purpose over getting the ratings and telling an entertaining story is selling toys. So shows with a large number of riders and riders with different forms, like Kabuto, are gonna get a closer look. And I'm going to save the sixth question to combine it with another one later, so let's move on for the moment. And we're going to move on to a rather prolific and interesting question asker. Nicholas Zond, SDVS TDP, established 2001, who has a 10-pack for me this time around. What if Funimation bought the rights to Power Rangers? Well, it would be the first live-action show that they owned or had the rights to, Funimation animation being their primary thing. It would make the show a lot more accessible since Funimation does have its own streaming service. However, I have to say this is not something I see happening. I still see Hasbro buying the rights to the franchise after next season. Is Megaforce/Super still the worst season of Power Rangers? First of all, I do not consider Megaforce the worst season of Power Rangers. I've made a video all about this. I create a clear and separate distinction between the two seasons of Megaforce. And to be clear, this is the only set of seasons for which I do that just because they're so different and based on two completely different Sentai, so I feel that they have to be considered separately. Not like Megaforce or Dino Charge or anything like that, just those two should be taken as separate entities. I separate the two, and I did so when I ranked the Power Ranger season in a video that feels like it was eons ago now. So, as for Super Megaforce itself, I would still say yes. Ninja Steel did get close, but I feel like Super Megaforce wasted more potential. Ninja Steel really didn't have that much to work with, to be honest. Which is worse, Ninja, Kamen Rider Ghost, or Super Megaforce? I'll have you know that I actually kind of enjoyed Kamen Rider Ghost. It wasn't my favorite Kamen Rider series, it definitely gets a bit dull here and there, but it was still pretty enjoyable and not anywhere near this category of bad. So, Ninja versus Super Megaforce. That's a tough one, actually. I still say Super Megaforce wasted more potential, but Ninja was far more annoying. I'm gonna have to give the edge to Ninja, if just barely. Do you think Jake from Megaforce is a misogynist? No, not really. I did see the video that you linked to referencing this. I didn't actually watch the video, I didn't really have time, but I did see that the video and the argument exist, but really I just considered Jake a high school kid with a crush. Have you ever tried steamed hams? No, but I have seen the Aurora Borealis at this time of year, at this time of day, in this part of the country, localized in my kitchen. And no, you can't take a look. What is the Silver Skull up to? Plotting some kind of evil plan, I'd imagine. It's been a while since I've heard from him. What are your thoughts on Yu-Gi-Oh? I watched it a bit when I was a kid, but the whole simulated monsters thing just made it not kind of jive with me. It felt less dramatic and real. Thoughts on 4Kids? They had some good shows. Will you do a Ninja Star gag? Probably not. I'm not sure what this question means, to be honest. Do you support net neutrality? Kind of a political question for me to answer, but I will say that yes, I do. I feel that access to the internet should be completely open and it shouldn't be able to be throttled by certain websites, certain providers, etc. 8 questions from Ultimate Peanut. Ultimate Peanut with a V. What do you personally want out of a sequel to the 2017 Power Rangers movie? The main number one thing, now that the characters are established, would be a lot more Power Rangers action. And, I mean, at least the start of the Green Ranger story. If you could have a job working on Power Rangers other than being an actor, what would it be? An editor. either a video editor or a story editor. I really enjoy editing video, as you see from my channel here, and while I'm definitely not good enough to produce a show like Power Rangers, I think it would be a lot of fun making the magic happen on the screen. And if you've been watching my reviews, especially of Ninja Steel, you know how much I think they could use more talented story editors to take a look over some of these scripts. How would you describe to someone who isn't a hardcore fan what you think is so great about Power Rangers or toku in general? At some point relatively soonish, I'll say sometime within the next 5 years, I'm planning on finally getting a tattoo. It's going to be the Power Rangers lightning bolt, and it's going to be right here. When I talk to people about that and I explain why I'm getting that, the first reason that I give them is basically the answer to this question. To me, Power Rangers as a franchise is about being able to transform, to become something greater and larger and stronger than you are right now, and to fight against impossible odds with a power that comes from within. Should Saban, or someone else, start making more Western toku shows like Mystic Knights of Tir na Nog? It would be nice, but I also recognize that filming toku shows from the ground up is incredibly expensive. One of the main reasons that Power Rangers continues to thrive is because they don't have to film a lot of the footage. Is there potential for a Power Rangers fighting game a la Street Fighter, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, etc.? Yes, absolutely. If only there was some kind of Power Rangers fighting game that the roster just covered the entire legacy of Power Rangers, and these Power Rangers had to battle against each other in this series of one-on-one wars. You might call it Legacy Wars. Alright, in all seriousness, Power Rangers Legacy Wars does show us that the market is there for a Power Rangers fighting game, and I would be all over even a console port of Legacy Wars, just as it is, just revamp the controls a little. What kind of cartoons did you enjoy growing up and/or currently watch? When I was a little kid, I was really into Looney Tunes. I have very fond memories of sitting in the back room of my mother's nail salon, waiting for her to get off of work, sitting on a big beanbag chair watching a VHS of Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. As I got a little bit older, I got way into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the early 90s cartoon. Nowadays, I don't really watch any cartoons, to be honest. Geez, I sure do get a lot of questions about cartoons. I wonder why. Maybe it's because I've said so much that I want to be a voice actor. Speaking of, if you could be a voice actor for any of your favorite franchises or shows besides Power Rangers, what would it be and who would you play? Ah, a voice acting question. Thank you. To be honest, I would be so eager just to break into that field and make it a career that I would basically take any role that I could get my hands on. But if I had the ability to choose one, choose a franchise and choose a role, got it. I would pick Kingdom Hearts, and I would want to be one of the nobody generals in Organization 13. You know, one of those guys who has a very deep, calm voice. But you know that calm voice underneath hides some very dangerous intentions. What shows, movies, games, etc. do you consider guilty pleasures? I don't really have any. I like the things that I like, and I don't feel guilty about it. I'm sorry that I can't really give you an answer for this, but I just like what I like. Masked Rider Blue has 7 questions to ask me, and seeing as Masked Rider Red doesn't seem to be around anywhere, let's get to answering those. Thoughts on X-Aid since you just started? There appears to be something of a slight miscommunication here, seeing as I have not actually started X-Aid. I did get to the part in Q Ranger where X-Aid does show up for an episode. I'm sure I'm going to enjoy the show once I get to see it. Do you watch Shinta Reviews? He reviews toku, Power Rangers, and RPGs. Nope. Sorry. Favorite episode of Atop the Fourth Wall? Definitely Power Rangers Zeo #1. I loved that battle with Mechacara, and that white Zeo suit was awesome. Do you watch any other Channel Awesome producers? This was a very interesting time to get and read this question and put it out there. All I'll really say here is if you're interested in more information on that, go on Twitter and check out the hashtag #ChangeTheChannel. I do watch Nostalgia Critic a little more than here and there, but not like every single week as soon as episodes come out. I've taken a peek at some of the other producers, current and former, but really it's just Linkara, who actually, even recently now, is no longer a Channel Awesome producer. Have you seen Marco Satsu's Kamen Rider Abridged? I have, actually, and they're really funny and really interesting, and I'd actually love to do some voice work for them sometimes. Marcos, if you're watching, hit me up, let me know, channel info, etc., etc. If you're fans of his, let him know that I'm interested. Favorite cartoon? You see, again with the cartoons. What's the deal with these cartoons? I mean, come on! To answer the question, I'll just say the early 90s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. What show would you recommend for starting Star Trek? Absolutely The Next Generation. Nothing about it really demands too much knowledge about the original series, and while I will say TNG starts out really, really bad, it pretty quickly gets really, really good. Deep Space Nine is a little too deep to start out with. Voyager is a little too based on the stuff that came before it, and the original series is kind of time-locked in a different era, and Enterprise was getting good just as it was canceled, I'll put it that way. As for the currently running series, Star Trek Discovery, although I kind of put currently in quotation marks, seeing as it's going to be gone for over a year before we get new episodes, I would say that's actually the second best choice to start out with. It does have a little bit of teasing back to other things that have happened in the Star Trek lore. However, it really doesn't lean on those all that hard, and it's such a new type of series done in such a different way, shot in a different way, shown in a different way, that I almost think it's better to actually start Discovery as a brand new Star Trek fan and experience that and then go back and watch the other shows, rather than already having that basis for what Star Trek has been and then getting Discovery as this shock to your system. We're in another hiatus now. But something... After that, I had a, to be honest, rather disastrous month. I started out in Tomorrowland as a cashier before transferring to the ad-libbing. I feel like I've been asked... No, but I have seen the Aurora Borealis at this time of year, at this time of day, in this part of the country. See what I mean? Again with the cartoons. I mean, what's the deal with these cartoons? Come on. No, yeah, I couldn't do that right. Favorite mentor that was also... Oh, shoot. Starting to get to the shorter groups here as